Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Mental Health Tuesday. And in today, we are blessed to have a key guest with us who is ready to take us in our 178th session. And remember, today we are talking about healing from SGBV. And in this, we are talking about survivor's mental journey, PTSD, and shame and hope. Here we have with us our guest speaker, none other than Shazmin Kasam. Kwa hiyo karibu sana Shazmin, maybe you tell us who you are and what you are doing. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Mahmoud. Thank you for the warm welcome and thank you for everyone who has joined. I'm Shazmin Kasam. I'm a counseling psychologist, GBV activist. I'm certified in the mental health management of rape and intimate partner violence. I am also a cancer educator, global breast health and cancer educator. I also deal with cervical cancer awareness and prostate cancer awareness. Yeah, that is me. I'm a holistic wellness practitioner. Thank you so much, Mahmoud.
Thank you so much, Shazmin, for that great introduction and letting us understand who you are. And to all our audience and listeners who are here tonight, remember it's all about mental well-being, it's all about mental health. So kuwa huru kuchangia, kuwa huru kuweza kuuliza swali, unaweza tuandikia pale kwenye call chat yetu na tutaweza kulisoma ili mzungumzaji wetu wa leo aweze kutujibu. Na kama una changizo ama labda umeshawahi pitia ama labda umeshawahi kuwa karibu na mtu ambaye amepitia hali kama hizi za SGBV ama labda yuko katika ile state ya PTSD, pia unaweza kuzungumza nasi ili kwa natija ya wale wasikilizaji ambao tuko nao hapa. Labda Shazmin, in regarding our today's topic, I know you are well prepared and you are ready for today's topic. Labda tu nikuulize katika ile hali ya kuweza kuchanganua, je, hii SGBV ni nini, PTSD ni nini na trauma ni nini? Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. So, when you talk of SGBV, we're talking about the sexual gender based violence, but then GBV as a whole inaweza ku affect like it is not only sexual, we can have physical GBV, we can have financial GBV, we can have verbal GBV, emotional, psychological, like there's a whole spectrum about it. Yani, translating it, kunaweza mtu anaweza kudhulumiwa kijinsia, mtu anaweza kudhulumiwa kifedha, mtu anaweza kudhulumiwa kimawazo, kiakili, mtu anaweza dhulumiwa kwa verbal, ile maneno tu like kutusiwa. And haimaanishi kuwa if it is not gone to the extent of physical GBV, it is not GBV. So, and GBV it's not only like directed to women. We have also men who face GBV. So when we talk of PTSD, we are talking about post-traumatic disorder syndrome. So post-traumatic disorder ni nini? After going through a very traumatic event, after going through a very traumatic experience. In this case, tunaangalia the traumatic event equate that violence that a person has gone through, the abuse that a person has gone through. So post-traumatic disorder syndrome, it's whereby you start developing extreme syndromes of trauma after the traumatic event. So when we talk of trauma is not ile event yenyewe. Trauma ni now your reaction afterwards, how you perceive things afterwards, after that event, how you interact with the triggers. So a trigger ni kitu ambayo inaweza kucause your reaction of the trauma in you. For instance, let me give a brief example. I know more examples nitakuwa nikipeana hapo mbele. Brief example of what a trauma is. Unaweza pata somebody maybe who went through physical violence. Yeah. This person akiwa in the presence of somebody who uses the hands like for gestures, and this hand is swung yani towards him or her, unaweza pata ana flinch. Shakupata mtu, you don't want to hit them, but the fact that hiyo mkono tu imefika karibu na yeye, ana flinch as if you are about to hit. That is a reaction that can be caused by trauma when you're talking about physical trauma. Physical violence, I mean. I hope I've answered the question, Mahmoud.
That was very clean, Madam Shazmin, for taking us through understanding these terms that we are going to deal with them tonight in this discussion. So from there, you can take us through your presentation on how you have prepared yourself and taking us through the whole healing process in regards to the SGBV. So feel welcome. Nyali, we are sorry for that. So welcome back, Madam Shazmin, and take us through your whole presentation that you have for us tonight. And then we are going to have a section whereby we are going to ask you some questions in regarding to your presentation. Karibu san.
Thank you so much. Is it possible from your end that I have somebody to help me? I have a document with me and I've prepared a quiz for everyone who's here. Is it possible that you can share it on your end?
Yeah, you can just share it on your screen.
Shazmin, let me try to load it and then let me try to present it on your behalf.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so as the document is being loaded, so what we're going to do is there's a very short quiz. It's like 5 questions to just get a deeper understanding of what GBV is, of what SGBV is, of what the signs that a person might be going through any of this is. Sometimes we have people that go through it and we might not know the signs to be able to help them. Sometimes the people don't even know they're going through it. Okay. Nimepatia jibu ya one of the answers. So one of the questions was, is it possible for somebody to go through GBV without knowing they're going through GBV? Whether it's sexual, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, yes, it's very much possible. So what are the factors that inaweza fanya mtu asijue that they are going through GBV? Yeah. So one factor is age. Sometimes people who are going through GBV, especially SGBV, might be too young to understand that it is happening to them. So unapata like later on when they get to know what SGBV is, what GBV is, they're like, okay, it's been happening to me. How did I not know this? How was I not informed of this? And there's a lot of self-blame that can come out of that. So another factor might be, just borrowing patterns from childhood that have been normalized in your life. So an example of this is if you have parents who abuse their kids, but then reframe this abuse as love. I'm doing this because I love you. There is no apology. About like there's no apology on the verbal abuses that are coming your way. There are no apologies on the physical abuses that are coming your way, financial abuses that are coming your way. So you see it as normal behavior. Yeah, you see it as normal behavior. Then it is reframed as, I'm doing it because I love you. So at that point, what happens? You start connecting abuse to love. When you start connecting abuse to love, you get into a relationship, you get into a workplace, you get into maybe boarding, anywhere that abuse can be subjected to you. You might take time to realize it is actually abuse because you are following a normalized pattern that links. You're following a normalized pattern that links abuse to love. Okay. So I'm getting information that the document isn't loading, but I think we can do it this way, isn't it? Do we all?
Sure, Charles, I think you can continue that way because the document is heavy. It exceeds the size that we could load via email. So it's quite a process. But
That's
we can
okay.
continue this way and then we can share the slides.
Yes, thank you so much for the update. So before I start this, I had a trigger warning that I wanted to display. So the trigger warning is today's topic might contain words or images that can be triggering to victims and survivors of gender-based violence. So when I'm talking about GBV and healing from SGBV, we might hear some things that can be triggering. We might hear some things that can take back if we have survivors here or if we have active victims in this space. So active victims are those who are going through active GBV, and survivors are those who have left the places or the people that were abusing them. So trigger warning is if you feel like you're triggered by any of the things that I'm going to say, do feel free to let me know, maybe after the session, or if you are comfortable just pointing it right now, it's okay. So the next question is, and I need reaction. I need reaction. The next question is, full-blown violence occurs without warning. That is why victims don't see it coming. Fact or myth? Full-blown violence occurs without warning. That is why victims don't see it coming. Fact or myth? I need reactions. Who thinks it's a myth? Full-blown violence occurs without warning. That's why victims don't see it coming. Is it a fact or a myth? I see Fauzia saying it's a fact. How many say it's a fact? By show of hands. How many say it's a fact? Daniel says it's a fact. Marianne says it's a fact. Dorcas says it's a fact. I saw a thumbs up from Mahmoud. Was that thumbs up on fact or myth? Margaret
A
says
fact.
it's a fact. Okay. So the question was, I repeat, full-blown violence occurs without warning. That is why victims don't see it coming. Mm-hmm. So who is on the myth side? Who thinks it's a myth? Who thinks it's a myth? Nobody. I think it's a myth. Mr. Mocho also thinks it's a myth. Mm-hmm. So can I get from the people who said fact on why they think it's a fact? Just one or two people? Then I'll talk about that. One or two people who would like to share why they think the statement is a fact. Yes, Marianne, I welcome you.
Thank you so much. I would say it's a fact because you might be with your partner, they act properly. However, on one night you get into a disagreement, you don't actually see it coming. Yes, they might have been signs, but you didn't like expect the signs to become okay, you didn't expect the results to become physical. So during that night of, let's say, argument is when it becomes physical and the intimate partner violence then occurs. You don't have like a foreshadowing of what actually happens. You might say like they are annoyed or they are, acting weird, but you never actually get to imagine the result of anything until it happens. Yes.
Thank you so much, Marianne. That is a good contribution. So Marianne says that at times you see minute signs, but then you do not feel like it can cause full-blown abuse. And one time it just happens, and you're so shocked as to how it reached to that point, because you never thought they would do that. Is that right, Marianne?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you so much. Anyone else who would like to share? Fauzia says the abuse is connected as love. That is very true. So, Marianne, your hand is still up. Would you like to add? Would you like to add something? Oh, thank you
My
so much.
apologies.
No, it's okay. Don't apologize. Yes, some passports. That's Mr. Muhammad, yeah? Welcome.
I think the point that you used the phrase full blown SGBV, then it
Yes,
means by the time it gets to full blown, it had started in some way. So
yes.
if it has started in some way and it is a movement building, then you cannot say it was unexpected. But if it just happened in a day, and you cannot call it full blown when it just started in a day, that could be unexpected. But if you refer to it as full blown, it means it has been in existence for a while and you cannot just wish it away.
Thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad. Now, that is exactly the explanation that is here. It is a myth. So, what happens is not that I used the word full blown, just as Mr. Macharusa has indicated, full blown. So, what do I mean by full blown? Marianne was also correct from her point of understanding that at times when there are no signs, and you never got into any pattern of abuse, you never got into any pattern of feeling that they can abuse you, that can also happen. But when you talk about full blown is a stage in violence. So there are three stages in violence. Just like any other thing, we have just like any other thing that has stages, we have the honeymoon stage. So what is the honeymoon stage? The honeymoon stage is where the abuse comes like very light. There's a lot of apologies, a lot of promises, a lot of gifts. It's more of like after every it's more of like love bombing. Then after that, they do something to harm you, they do something to hurt you, but then they quickly follow up with an apology, they quickly follow up with a gift, they quickly follow up with an explanation. So at this point, you really don't think they're abusing you, because it seems like a harmless mistake, because there is a quick follow up of apologies. So an example of this is when you're new in a relationship with an abusive person, or when you're new in a workplace, you might find some things that are very questionable, but then they do not appear as much as they would later on, and they are quickly followed up by apologies. Hey, I'm really sorry I did this because of this and this and this. There's a lot of explaining, and they can be also a lot of blaming. So when blaming comes in, you don't feel like they're doing something to you, you feel like you are causing something, you feel like what you're doing is causing that reaction. Like, I did this because you did this to me. I didn't pick your call because yesterday night you were just like those minute blaming. So when this blaming becomes frequent, we tend to feel that we are the ones causing that reaction from them. So it does not feel like abuse at that point. Then we have the second stage, which is the tension building stage. A lot of tension is built at that stage. There's yelling and swearing, coercion, anger, criticism. Now, this is where many people realize that, hey, something is not right. My partner is not treating me right. But then the common myth of abuse is that it has to be physical to be abused. That's the common myth. of abuse. It has to be physical to be abused. So there's this yelling and cursing and abusing and swearing and coercion. So one thing about coercion, uh, coercion brings me to now talk about consent. When we're talking about SGBV, remember what I'm highlighting is general GBV, and also be highlighting more on SGBV as well. So when we come to coercion in GBV, SGBV, sexual assault, sexual abuse, so we tend to think that consent is only saying yes, but then consent is more than just saying yes. When you say maybe, that is not a yes. When you say no, that is definitely not a yes. When you say you're not sure, that is definitely not a yes. Then we have coercion being, let me write the spelling here so that you know what coercion I'm talking about. It's this in the chat box. So coercion is where you don't feel like doing something with your partner, and they try just guilt tripping you into it. They try persuading you against your will into it. And sometimes you might give in, not fully wanting it, but just to stop them from coercing you again and again and again. That is abuse on its own. So coercion, that is explaining what coercion can mean. Not only in the sexual aspect, it can also come in decision making. It can come in financial matters. You don't feel like doing anything around maybe money, and they're really trying to persuade you against your will, and you give in, not by will, but just to maintain peace. When you have to make a decision just to maintain peace, but not because you want it, that is coercion, that is abusive. Then we have now the full blown or the explosion stage. Now this is where there are attacks and threats, and full blown. Now now this person does not care how you feel about physical abuse, how you feel about emotional abuse, how you feel about sexual abuse. So remember, in the tension building stage, if it was sexual GBV, there was coercion. When it comes to full blown, they don't even want to convince you. They don't even want to use that tactic of manipulation on you. In the tension building stage, when it comes to emotional blackmailing, mental blackmailing, we have the gaslighting. When it comes to full blown, they don't even care that they have to manipulate you. They don't even care that they have to gaslight you. It's like, yes, I'm doing it, and I am doing it. There is no because. At that point, when it reaches to full blown, that's the foundation down there. And part of the foundation is lowering or breaking your self-esteem. We're going to talk about that when we will be covering why it is hard for people to live. So let me get to the next question. Surprisingly, when we were talking, I talked about some of the questions. So the next question is, leaving a toxic or abusive place or person, or helping a person out of such a place is the end game. Leaving an abusive person or place is the end game. Or when you help somebody leave an abusive place, that is the end game. Myth or fact? Let me hear from you. Myth or fact? How many say it's a myth that when you leave a toxic place or a person, that is endgame? Fauzia says it's a myth. How many side with Fauzia on this one? How many side with Fauzia on this one? Is it a myth? Green Minds Youth Initiative says it's a myth. Anita, thumbs up. I think she agrees. Who else agrees to that? Okay. So yes, it is a myth. Leaving a toxic person or a place is not endgame. It is just the beginning of a new journey. I mean, sometimes when we help people leave a toxic place, we think that we have helped them enough. Like, okay. And sometimes you feel like, okay, this is it. I'm out of here. Now everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be right. But then there's something bigger than that awaiting on the other side, and that is healing. Healing. That is a bigger mountain on the other side. So, why do you think it can be very hard for a person to live? And then after leaving, why do you think it can also be hard for a person to heal? Now we have two things here, living and healing, both of which are very, very hard, both of which need maximum support from the people around us. But then it can be really hard to seek help. It can be really hard to seek help. So I hope you're following. If you're following, can I see emojis? Can I see a rain of emojis if you're following through? Thank you so much. That is good. So thank you so much. Yeah. So why is it hard to live? Number one, we have a lot of myths in the society, within ourselves as well, as to what abuse is. Remember, I said you can go through abuse without knowing you're going through abuse. Whether it's sexual, physical, verbal, you can go through abuse without knowing it is there. So there's those myths and stereotypes that hover around it, especially when it comes to relationships. And there are certain stereotypes in the community as to how a woman should be disciplined this way and that way, as to how a man is not a man unless he has a quarreling wife. Why is your wife so calm? But then there are some people who get into a relationship and the calm bothers them. Like, no, it can't be this calm. It can't be this peaceful. That's not it. Like, how can it be this calm? That is a stereotype around what we see as struggles in most relationships. But then it is just the childhood patterns showing in relationships. Remember, I told you, I gave an example of somebody who was being abused as a kid, and that abuse was labeled as love. Hey, I'm doing this, mama, because I love you. I'm doing this, dad, because I love you. And you're a girl, you should be able to know that the people that love you are going to be really mad when you do things that they don't like. And then you tell the boy child, you shouldn't even be worried about you're like cool gangari, you're a boy, instead of apologies. So they get into a relationship and you find this particular child, this particular person that was linking love to abuse as a child, now cannot stay in a peaceful relationship. They're going to think, what is wrong? Why does my partner not love me? Because it's too peaceful. Like, it's super peaceful. And they start looking for ways of bringing in quarrels here and there. Yeah, this is an example of how stereotypes and the childhood patterns can make it hard for somebody to live because they feel that is the norm. If it happens, it means I am loved. The second thing is stigma. Stigma around GBV, stigma around healing from GBV, and stigma around helping somebody who is going through GBV. When we get to SGBV, we have a lot of victim blaming. We have a lot of victim shaming. And before somebody even steps out there and says, this thing is happening to me, they already know the response out of there. So the shame starts building even before they're able to tell somebody, hey, Marianne, I'm going through this. They're like, no, what is she going to say about me? She's definitely going to ask what I was wearing. She's definitely going to ask why I was with this person at this particular time. She's definitely going to tell me that is my husband. And such SGBV does not happen in marriages. But then marriage is not consent. See, so these stigmas that are there in the society around GBV and helping people around it, that victim shaming and blaming, it can make a person really, really scared of opening up about it, of living from that place, because maybe where will they go? Which brings me to the over dependence, the dependence on the people that are executing that particular abuse. If it is a workplace, you're thinking, this is the only work that I have that can sustain me. If it is a partner, you're thinking, they provide for everything that I have. If it is a parent, you're thinking, where will I go? And God forbid, in some of these places, you find that the people do have places to go to, but when they get there, it is not safe to actually open up and heal about it. You're going to be sent back to where you are. You know what? Go back. That is your partner. Go back. That is your family. Go back. Those are your parents. You see that? So a lot of stigma, invalidation, self-blame, and just like stigma from the society. Another thing is guilt and lowered self-esteem, and the fear of loneliness as well. Remember, I told you, in the tension building stage, what happens is the esteem of a victim can be really, really shattered. It can be really lowered. Because remember, this person is questioning their actions at that point. They're walking on eggshells. So what do I mean by they're walking on eggshells? Do you remember when I said that at this stage there can be a lot of blaming, there can be a lot of gaslighting, and there can be a lot of also breadcrumbing? Have we all heard about what breadcrumbing is? Anyone who has a slight idea of what breadcrumbing is, hands up. I need to see if you're following up. Anyone who has an idea of what breadcrumbing is? Okay. So, yes, Marianne.
Perhaps I can give it a try, though I'm not so sure. When it comes to breadcrumbing, it's similar to, okay, through the tension building stage, somebody might feel the tension and then they might get a positive reward, in the sense that maybe there's a bit of tension now, and then later you get something like flowers, which reassures you of the good things in the relationship. But perhaps you can correct me on that.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Yes, there's usually reward when it comes to breadcrumbing. So what breadcrumbing means, and yeah, please clap for her. That was a nice trial. Let me see the claps coming through. Are we following? Yeah, thank you. So that was good, Marianne. Yes, there can be a lot of gifting. There can be a lot of back and forth. So what happens is, I'm going to ask a hypothetical question. Let's say the project Inside Out says bare minimum. Okay, so thank you. So when we are, let's say I give 100% of something today. Are you following through? I give 100% of something today. Then tomorrow, I lower it to 70%. You can feel that gap here. There's a huge gap that is there. The next day, I bring that effort up to 60%. You see what I'm doing? I'm removing something that you're used to, replacing it with something slightly lower than that, but you're going to appreciate it. Then one time I move to 40%, and you feel a very huge gap once again. Then I come shoot to 50%. Now, a person who was appreciating 100% is now appreciating 50% because they have felt what it is like to fill that gap. They have felt what the gap can feel like. So they are okay with the 50%. Then from this 50%, I come and lower it to 20%. You're going to feel something at that point. You're going to feel something is missing. Then I come bring it to 30%. Nimeongeza by only 10%, but you're going to be very thankful of that 10% that I have added. And that is how breadcrumbing works. Somebody gives you full attention one day, for months, love bombs you. Then they remove everything that you're used to. And you start seeking for it. What is wrong? Have I done something wrong? Is there something that is there something that I can do to bring that affection back? Is there something that I can do to bring that appreciation back if it's in the workplace? Is there something I can do to just bring back that thing that is missing? And they know what they're doing. So let's say if that gap was caused by anything abusive, whether it was verbal abuse, whether it was cheating, whether it was sexual abuse of any kind, and they stop it for a while and they come and they give you gifts and they show you a bit of love, even if it was not as it was before, you're going to appreciate it. So this back and forth pattern goes to an extent where you are okay with 20%. And I've seen the project Inside Out has written bare minimum. But trust me, at this point, even if they do not give you the bare minimum, and they do only one thing from that bare minimum, you feel like it's a lot because you've tested not having it, you've tested that pattern of abuse, and you feel like you can appreciate anything that is going to come your way. And that is why you look at somebody and you're like, how can she tolerate such nonsense? How can she tolerate such behavior? Can she see that her partner is doing this? Can she see that her parents are doing this? Can she see that her in-laws are doing this? That also happens in sexual abuse when we look at SGBV. One time, they're fully blown abusing you. The next time, they ask for forgiveness. They take it from full blown to just simply touching you without your permission. They take it back to forcefully kissing you. Then you start appreciating just the touches. You start allowing just the touches because you feel like, hey, if I try to fight against this, it's going to go back to full blown again. It can also happen that way. It can happen where somebody gets abused, then it is taken away. When it comes in a lesser, in a less, how can I concentrated way, in a lesser way, you feel like you're appreciating it because you don't want to go back to the most hurtful part of it. You start keeping quiet, like you continue keeping quiet about it, because if I talk about it, it's going to go back to how it was. So those are two instances of breadcrumbing. So then we have the loneliness. There's fear of uncertainty. When we look at people who are going through abuse of any kind, there's fear of uncertainty. After I leave this place, after I leave this person, what next? Am I going to get somebody, or am I going to get a place like this? You're like, I think I can live for the crumbs that I'm getting. Crumbs are better than none. But that is the fear of uncertainty. You feel like when you get out of there, you won't even get the crumbs that you're living on. There'll be nothing on that plate. But you never know. Maybe after getting out of that place, you won't get crumbs, but a full bread, in fact, will be served to you. Yeah? And that is why people don't leave, because of that fear of loneliness, of that fear of, am I going to get something like this ever again. Remember, I told you when when there is blaming, when there is a lot of guilt tripping, when there is a lot of lowered self-esteem, words like don't like you're never going to get love like this anywhere, you're never going to get a relation like this anywhere, you're never going to get a workplace like this anywhere. Mhm. It's building that self-blame bit by bit. It's building this self-sabotage bit by bit, so it becomes hard to live. Now let's talk of a person who has already left an abusive place, who has already left an abusive partner, yeah, who has already left that situation that was exposing them to the SGBV, to the PGBV of any kind. So what happens? What factors are there that can slow down the rate of healing at that place, at that instance? Number one, it's loneliness. When you're trying to heal from any form of GBV and you're doing it on your own, you feel like now those uncertainties have come true. You remember the uncertainties where you're like, am I really going to get a clan like this anyway? Am I going to get people like this anyway? Am I going to get a place like this anyway? And you get out of that particular place or that particular relationship and you're all by yourself. That stigma that is around there, that distrust, people do not trust, do not believe that you went through it. And there's something I saw online, and I think most of us have seen it, but if you've not, this is what it was saying. When somebody tells you they faced abuse from somebody, it is not up to you to say they're wrong just because you have a good relationship with that person. What happens with most abusers is that when they're abusing people closer to them, they put on a different mask when they are with people outside that inner circle. They're going to be really good with the neighbors. They're going to be really good with other companies. They're going to be really good when they're with other people. This goes to the sexual abusers as well. We find people really victim blaming of shaming because they're like, no, such a person cannot do it. Such a person cannot touch you. Why are you just accusing them? That can make it very hard for somebody to heal. Because remember, when you're searching for these safe spaces and they turn out to be unsafe, and that fear of uncertainty is now it's becoming true, and there's loneliness. Do you really think this person can heal as fast as somebody with support, can heal as fast as somebody with all the alternative of healing, can heal as fast as somebody who is boosting their self-confidence, boosting their self-esteem, getting out, talking to people? And those are the steps I would now like to talk about. So we've mentioned trauma. And any form of GBV, whether it's sexual GBV, any form of GBV, comes with a set of trauma. It comes with traumas that have a set of symptoms, that have a set of signs, and also comes with a set of effect. How is it going to affect you? How is it going to affect the people around you? First of all, we have to note that it is going to affect the brain wiring so much. The brain wiring is just going to be affected to the point of dysregulation. So what do we mean? When our body senses any form of harm, we go into defense mechanisms. So some of the defense mechanisms are the freeze, flight, fawn, fight. So we have the flight or fight, we have the freeze, and we have fawn. Can somebody help me type them? We have the freeze, we have the fight, stroke flight, we have fawn. Am I getting somebody helping me type that? Let me type it. Oh, thank you so much. So we have the fight, we have the flight, freeze, and fawn. So what is the fight or flight mode? What is the freeze mode? What is the fawn mode? So the fight or flight mode, these are mechanisms, these defense mechanisms that give you energy to deal with the situation. It gives you energy to deal with the situation. There is an adrenaline rush in your body. But how are you going to utilize this energy in defending yourself? Fight mode is where you now fight with the thing that is creating that threat. Thank you so much to everyone who's typing. So fight mode is where you gain energy to fight it, to counter it. Flight mode is where you get energy to flee from that situation. You just want to run away from it, whether this person is coming after you or not. You just want to get out of that situation. Then we have the freeze mode. Freeze mode is where you go numb. You don't know how to react. You just let things happen to you, whether it's physical abuse. These people are hitting you and you're just staring at them. You do not know how to fight for yourself. This person is raping. You do not know how to fight for yourself. You just remain numb. And this is where now a lot of misconceptions come in. The people who ask, why didn't you fight back? The people who ask, why didn't you flee? The people who ask, why didn't you scream? Why didn't you shout? And you're claiming to be violated. That was not rape because you didn't scream. That was not assault because you didn't flee. Now this is where I come to freeze and fawn. Sometimes the defense mechanism that your body takes you to is freezing. You cannot do anything about it. You feel like, I just need to stay calm so that I do not get killed in this situation, so that I get saved in this situation, so that the effects of this harm are less. Because if I fight back, then maybe they're going to hit harder. If I fight back, maybe they're going to use things to make me comply. So that is why some people might freeze. They might not even scream, they might not even call for help, they might not even try to run away, but it doesn't mean that they were not abused. Then we have now the fawn. I've had questions about fawn because it is not talked much, but fawn is now where you try to you try to just pretend you're complying, or you gain the favor. You do things to gain the favor of the abuser. What do I mean? You know very well that this person is an abuser. You're feeling that effect of the abuse, but you start doing good things to the abuser in the hope that they might stop, in the hope that they might lessen that treatment, in the hope that they might abuse you less, in the hope that in that hope you start doing good things to your abusers to stay safe. Now this is where we come to now the stigma again. You say so and so is abusing you. Why were you doing this and that to them? Why were you good to them? That is fawn response. And you might find even people getting to court and still smiling at the people they have reported, because they feel like if they do anything else than gaining their favor even at that point, it's going to get worse. And there's also fear of recurrence. When it comes to healing, there's also fear of recurrence. Fear that these people might come after you, or this person, or this workplace, whoever that was subjecting that kind of abuse to you. There's that fear that they might do it again. And it might also make somebody not live, by the way. Why am I saying so? When you are in any form of violence or abuse, and this person strangles you, strangle, like anakunyonga, that person is 800% more likely to kill you. So you find people getting to freeze or fawn to save themselves. So why am I saying that one of the symptoms from this is dysregulation? Remember, we get to these defense mechanisms to save ourselves from a situation. But if this situation repeats again and again and again, our brain starts staying in that defense mechanism. It starts staying there. If you're a person who was fighting or fleeing, you began fighting even things that are not harmless. You began getting irritable at very small things because everything feels like a threat at that time. You start becoming numb to everything. If you're a person who was freezing, if you're a person who was doing the phone, you become very over pleasing to people even after leaving the toxic place. You feel like the only way to survive this world is by pleasing people. You feel like the only way to survive is numbing the emotions. And sometimes it takes a very long time for this now nervous regulation to come back to normal. When the nervous system is affected, you might start seeing some of the signs that you're living through that trauma, that you have PTSD. We might have distrust. We might have sex phobia if it was SGBV. Next, can we mute, please? Thank you. We might have sex phobia if it was SGBV. We might get into depression. You might get a lot of flashbacks. And I kid you not, sometimes when you get the flashbacks and your body is now trying to fight those flashbacks, you might find yourself reacting the same way as you were on that day, and it can lead to anxiety or panic attacks. Then we might have body image issues. What do I mean by body image issues? You start hating your body. This is the body that allowed it to happen. This is the body that was abused. This is the body that they did this to. This is the body that was hit and beaten. This was the body that was shamed. This is it might come to that. Remember when I said about self-esteem? Anything that was happening verbally, emotionally at that period of time, it might showcase when those signs of trauma are coming up. So how do we deal with them? How do we deal with that particular issue? Number one, I think from all these signs and challenges I've talked about, we might have had some of the solution. So number one, do not blame yourself. One thing I usually tell victims, survivors, or rather survivors of GBV any form, is it was not your fault. It wasn't your fault, it wasn't your fault, it wasn't your fault. Sometimes we feel like blaming ourselves for maybe staying, for maybe keeping quiet, for maybe not acting on it earlier. But then you have to know that it was your brain and body protecting you from further harm. Your body knows, your mind knows. So it is not your fault. Second, make sure you get into a space, a community, belong somewhere. You don't have to tell them what you're facing, but belonging somewhere can really help. Remember I told you when you're trying to heal from something, the worst thing you can do is be lonely in that. Sometimes when you belong to maybe a club, you belong to a project, you belong to anything that is there for the community, and you start seeing your purpose through other people's lenses, it also helps boost the self-esteem. Do not shy away from seeking for help. Seeking for help, as I've indicated in some of my posts, it can be seeking for professional help. It can be talking to somebody that you trust. When you're talking to people, make sure that space is really, really validating. Make sure it is a safe space. Because the moment you get into an invalidating space, what happens? It's going to take you back to that fear you had. It's going to take you back to the self blame you're having because it's not a healthy place to heal. Then we have a lot of trauma therapy techniques, some of which can be done individually, some that need a therapist. We have to get also to self-care. And I know sometimes you feel like self-care, like there's a lot of myths around self-care as well. I won't get to that. But do something that is going to make you feel cared for. You're doing it to yourself, of course. A lot of self-care. People underestimate self-care and the effect it has on healing. Self-care can start by just creating healthy boundaries around you. It is very, very easy to relapse, by the way. By relapsing in GBV, I mean, it's very easy to let other people do the same things to you. Because you're like, I lost that job, I lost that marriage, maybe, I lost that relationship, I lost these people, I'm not with my parents, and now I've gotten another set of people. You start seeing the patterns, but you're like, do I leave these ones too? Yes, you do. Create that boundary around yourself. It's not as easy as I'm outlining them, by the way. It's not as easy as I'm outlining them. But those are some of the things that can be done. Then we have physical releasing of that hurt. Our body really, really knows, and our body stores trauma. Most of the times when somebody is going through GBV, who has gone through GBV or SGBV, you find that the trauma is stored in the thighs. One of the things that can help in physical releasing is exercising, kicking, screaming, crying, letting it out. And there's something called somatic therapy. Somatic therapy is where you use stretches to release the therapy, to release the traumas, that are stored in different parts of the body. So we have the hip opening exercises. And these hip opening exercises, when you just like mix them with other forms of therapy, they can really help. So physical release, as I said, you can get to screaming, kicking the pillow, beating the cushion, yeah, and just releasing that. One other thing that is very important is forgiveness. But I'm not saying that you're forgiving the people who abused you. You're forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness. You forgive yourself for ever blaming yourself. You forgive yourself for ever allowing it to happen. You forgive yourself for being slow at maybe acting on it. You forgive yourself for being naive around it. You forgive yourself for not seeing the signs. You just forgive yourself. And it is very hard. Sometimes we feel like when it comes to forgiveness, it only applies to forgiving the people that did it to you. In fact, you can go through healing without forgiving them. But when it comes to forgiving yourself, it's really difficult to go on healing without forgiving yourself. One myth is that we are told that we have to forgive the people who did us wrong for us to heal. No. You can go through healing and still not fully forgive them, but still not blame yourself for it. You just put them on the side and deal now with the guilt that is within you. You deal now with the blame that is within you. Self-forgiveness, self-approval, self-acceptance. And a lot of the daily works that can be done are expressing gratitude, setting small goals, journaling, exercising, reading, mirror work. Remember, I told you when it comes to abuse, any form, And when you talk about SGBV, we also talk about how many survivors might start hating the body that allowed it to happen. So mirror work works very well when it comes to now forgiving yourself and coming to terms that you are healing from it, that you're not in denial anymore. Mm-hmm. One thing about trauma, one thing about abuse is when you're explaining it to somebody, that's when you realize some of those tiny things that were there that you didn't notice, and you start noticing them maybe during therapy, maybe when you're talking to people. So how do you deal with those? You first come to acceptance, then you challenge those thoughts. Remember, those are going to be very negative thoughts at times. Mm-hmm. Accept them, listen to those thoughts. What are they telling you? Talk to them, challenge them. You're saying that I let it happen. Do you know what I was going through at that time? I didn't know. I was young. Talk to them. Talk to those thoughts. Sit them down. Challenge them. I say that thoughts are valid, but not every valid thought is the truth. Your thoughts are valid. Welcome them. But then challenge them. Are you the truth? Or are you just a lie, a facade that I'm being forced to live in? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is a facade. Sometimes it is not the truth. So challenge it. And another aspect of healing is the distrust we might have of the people around us. It might become really hard to ever trust people again. Now, do we really say that we are bleeding on them when we can't trust them? It doesn't mean that. So, as people who are around survivors, as people who are around former victims, or maybe people who are in active violence at the moment, it's very important to allow ourselves, to allow the people to heal at their own pace. When somebody says, I don't trust this, I don't trust that, I can't go there because I don't trust it, a lot of people are too quick to say sasa kitu moja ili happen, unataka kila mtu achukue. No. So just because that happened to you, you feel like you can't trust me. So just because you went through that, you feel like no other relationship can work. So just because we have to let people heal at their own pace. Healing is not linear. And let me tell you one thing about healing. When we start healing, we create a very safe environment for the feelings we have, in our bodies. And sometimes there are feelings that we had suppressed, that we had hidden, that we didn't listen to. When these feelings now sense that, hey, this body is becoming safe for the feelings, they start also coming out one after the other. You start realizing things that you had not realized before, and it can take you back. It can take you back to starting all over again. It can take you back to, how did I not realize this? So we have to give ourselves the grace of healing at our own pace. Another thing is, even if we do change the environment, physical environment, and we are not working to change the internal environment, we are not actually healing. What we are doing is we are ignoring the triggers. What do you mean by that? Sometimes we move away from the triggers because we do not want to deal with it for a while. But then if it becomes a norm, if it becomes a pattern to avoid triggers again and again and again, you're not actually healing. You're just avoiding the triggers. You're just isolating, and there's no one to trigger you. There's no healing that is going to take place there. So healing is whereby you now become comfortable with dealing with those thoughts. You become comfortable with dealing with the triggers. You become comfortable with challenging them, not ignoring them. Yeah. So let me get questions. Let me get questions. Are we together so far? Can I get emojis? Are we together so far? Is everyone listening? Thank you, Mahmoud. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Praveen, Ashley. Thank you, Suad. Thank you, Dorcas, Vanessa, Nuru, Marianne. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nancy, Daniel, Biasha, Dawood, Shaheen. That's my mom. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yes, that was very great, Madam Shazmin, for taking us through the whole platform and trying also to give us the vivid information in regards to the healing journey of SGBV. And in respect of time, when I look at our call chat, I see there's no any question. Maybe from any one of us here, the audience, maybe if you have any question to ask, kindly can raise up your hand and ask. We have at least 3 minutes so that we can get it back to closing remarks from Madam Shazmin as we call off our tonight's session. So if you have any question, kindly you can raise up your hand so that we can give you a chance to speak. And if possible, you can also raise your question in the call chat. We read it, at least one question, so that we can give it back to Madam Shazmin and give us a closing remarks on our tonight's session. If no question, then Madam Shazmin, what is your takeaway? What is your closing remarks in regards of tonight's session?
Thank you so much, Mahmoud. There is a question from Dorcas. Can you kindly share places to help from GBV? Yes, there are many platforms and institutions that help with GBV, and I'm going to gather them and post them on my Instagram. I hadn't prepared a slide of all the places that can help with GBV, but then when you contact me, when you contact Amani Counseling and Training Institute, then you'll surely get help. So I'll prepare a slide where I'll take permission from. No, they're open actually. Yeah, there are some institutes that are open to help, including Amani Counseling and Training Institute. I'm too quick to mention that because I've been from them. Yeah. So we also have Warriors of Hope. The Warriors of Hope deals mainly with the cancer patients and cancer survivors. We can also help other members of the community through that. There is a human rights chapter in the constitution of the organization. Yeah, I'll arrange on that. Thank you so much, Dorcas, for that question. Hello, can you hear me? Can I get a response? My screen went blank. I don't know why.
We are getting you, Madam Shazmin.
Oh, so I'm going to summarize by GBV is not only happening to women. GBV happens to both men and women, but the reason why a lot of women are coming up to talk about it is because of the ratio of men to women going through it. Another takeaway is GBV is not only physical. We can have sexual GBV, we can have physical GBV, verbal GBV, emotional, financial, and when somebody says that they're going through abuse, and even if it's emotional abuse, that is valid. Even if it's mental abuse, that is valid. So, takeaway on the steps of healing through GBV is the self-acceptance and boosting of the self-esteem. Being able to recognize the thought patterns and challenging them. It's part of the CBT therapy, the cognitive behavioral therapy. Then we have alternative therapies where we can have physical exercises and somatic therapy to just like release the tension from our bodies by kicking, screaming, crying, intentionally actually. Just intentionally working through releasing that trauma from the body. Yeah. I really hope this was a very informative session. I'm waiting for feedback. You can get me on Instagram, shares._mean, and let me know how you liked the session, what can be changed about it, what you'd like me to talk about when it comes to violence in the next sessions. Thank you so much.
Amazing. We are honored to have you, Madam Jasmine, tonight, and we are really grateful for the very informative and educative session that you have given it to us tonight. For us, we say thank you so much. And for the audience who have been here with us since the starting of the session up to now, we say thank you so much for being here and listening this informative session. Remember, this session is brought to you by Samba Sport Youth Trust every Tuesday, starting from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. It's all about mental Health Tuesday. We say it's okay not to be okay, but let's raise our voice and help those who cannot raise their voice. Up to there, I've been your moderator, Mahmoud Ali. I say good night and have a lovely time until we meet again next Tuesday, God willing. Night.
Good night. Thank you so much.